us humans, our race that's walking the planet and walking the streets right now. That scares me. And I'm really scared is if we don't, in our minds, get ourselves focused and realize and get our governments to realize we can't go on the way it's going. Antarctica, okay, we're not talking first it was 100 years, then it was 40, then it's 20. I've been reading now it's 10 to 15 years. And then when that happens, basically all of Europe is going to go into an ice age. We're not even prepared for it. We're not even prepared for it at all. Certainly the guy living in North Carolina on the seacoast or in Florida that owns land isn't prepared for it.
No, we're not prepared for any of it. I agree with you completely. And I do feel we have ample evidence to indicate that we have put the earth through regeneration many, many times. We've got the Sphinx, which you very articulately explained. We have in India, hundreds of feet below where they have, evidence of a previous atomic war that must have happened, millennia ago. We have, the Ice Age, but we also have indications of other species that have intermingled over time. So we know that this is very possibly what happened. We have a lot of underwater cities as well, not just Atlantis and Lemuria, but they found a lot of underwater places. And so what we see is the possibility that over millions of years, the Earth may have had many, many different civilizations that we may never really know about because they are so ancient. And so what this tells us, which ironically is the conundrum of the mortal realms, is let's take the planet, but let's go back to the individual soul as well, because the problem is the same. What happens is we reincarnate, and we lose our way, and we end up standing still and not achieving what we need to do when we get here. Same thing is happening with the planet. It's happening over and over again. It has to regenerate. It has to go through a whole new epoch of time because we keep messing it up. So we're messing it up on a grander scale as a species. We're messing it up on an individual scale. Well, we're missing the fact that not only do we have to deal with the spiritual evolution of the soul, and the fact that if we don't, we are missing the point of our existence here. One of the things we understand is that as mortal realm, we come in here and we are here temporarily. Some people are here for a few years. Some people are here maybe at most 100. Most people, are somewhere between, 50 and 70 years, and we lose a lot of people who are very young. We forget how short our lifespan is. Now, that in and of itself should tell us something about the purpose of our existence. It means that there is something that we must achieve in this very short period of time that we are given here in this physical realm in order to accomplish the purpose of our incarnation. And again, that goes back to the purification of the soul. And this is happening on a societal level as well. We see this not only in all of these ecological disasters, the climate change, the fact that we have ample evidence to indicate that the earth has had to regenerate many times over, but we also see it in the fact that we have many different levels of evolution that exist within our world, all at the same time in different locations. We have things like ISIS. We have things that come in that are almost like prehistoric man, where people are a completely different space spiritually than they might be in another location. We have Aborigines, we have shamans in the woods, we have people living in absolute poverty, and we have people living in absolute wealth. There are many, many different scenarios that we can take on in our incarnations on Earth. This is a broad panorama of experience for the human soul. But what we're missing is that we have a very short period of time to accomplish something that will change the thrust of our spirit when we leave this planet, when we die. And if we don't, then we've stood still and wasted time yet again. And we have done that. We have wasted time, not just individually as souls, but as a species over and over and over again. And one of the things that out-of-body experiences will teach all of us is to stop wasting time and to go directly towards the focus of why are you here this time? What do you need to be doing? And this is what we're going to have to do with the planet as well. And, we only have so much control over that outcome, but we have to do that as well. It's going to be a big challenge. We don't know how it's going to turn out yet, but it could go very badly or it could go well. And a lot is determined by how much assistance we allow to come in to help us. When we are allowing higher assistance to come in to help us, even individually, we are actually allowing higher assistance to come into the realm. So we don't realize that by taking up the mantle of our own spiritual evolution, we are actually also allowing the mantle of the spiritual evolution of the species, of the race, and of the planet to also be receiving higher thrusts. And so everything that we do towards that good is going to be affecting all of these things across the board. And that's what makes it so important.
I think so. Now, another question, too. How about when you travel to a parallel universe? Have you talked to anybody that has seen what the planet has ended up? Has it ended up beautiful, or could it been a demise of a planet?
I'll tell you what I saw. I had an out-of-body experience about this actually years ago, and I was taken to another planet, and I was there with many beings from many different planets. It was very interesting because there were so many different types of beings there, and we had been taken there specifically to watch what was going to happen to the Earth. And we're watching from a distance, and the Earth is spinning, and we're seeing all this energy, and it looks all of a sudden like the Earth is actually coming towards us and is going to crash into the planet. We all experience this moment of panic, but what happens is a parallel Earth is born instead. So what you end up having is there is this one world of the Earth, which is very, very much the way it is right now. And the parallel Earth was a higher dimensional experience of the Earth. So this was more for those spirits and souls who were actually moving their vibrational thrust forward towards evolution. And so there was like a transfer of consciousness in this, in that it was like a part of the Earth was separated and apart from this older Earth, which was no longer going to be able to serve some of these inhabitants who needed to be in a higher vibrational thrust of the Earth. So there were two Earths. One was a lighter Earth, and the other one remained much more of a solid, kind of more darkened kind of plane of existence. And it was shown that the souls would resonate to the Earth that was most compatible to their own spiritual evolution at the time. And so, and I've read about this even with other people since I had the experience, having something about the parallel separation of the Earth. There can be, ironically, when you look at parallel realities, there can be dozens of parallel Earths. But this was something that I was shown specifically that particular time, maybe to show it to me in a way that I could understand. Because, sometimes when these experiences get into, so much multiplicity with our conditioned human mind, we have to have a little bit of help to understand. You know what I'm saying? It's hard for us to understand what we're seeing. But in reality, we could have dozens of parallel Earths. They could all be serving, multitudinous purposes at the same time. But I do think, when we look at what we're looking at for the trajectory of this realm, this parallel Earth that we are all traveling on, we have some concerns about what that outcome can be, because certainly it could be very bad. You know what I mean?
That's the scary part. I kind of got a funny feeling we're going on the bad side. So I do, really feel it has a lot to do with a person's attitude in life too. I mean, a lot of people are going around and feeling negative all the time. And that, the old term is if you feel negative, it breeds negativity. And that's what happens. I think if people were more into religion, more into loving themselves, their neighbors, their wives, their family, and humans, I got a funny feeling that, we wouldn't be where we're at right now.
Well, that's a very good point. And, one of the things that I would suggest to people, because I think, to be fair to most people, are feeling this negativity and this thrust that comes in. We see it even on a political level in our country. There's such a divide. But what we can do individually, is if we recognize that within ourselves of, I'm really having a hard time not being negative. But I recognize that staying that way is not serving me, and it's not serving the realm, and it's not going to help anybody move forward. What we can do is we become consciously aware of that, and then we start making one decision at a time, where we're going to start, okay, instead of just being really angry about this, I'm going to do this instead, this one time. And then you just start doing one thing at a time. And of course, we absolutely want to encourage kindness to one another. We want to give each other, the benefit of the doubt. There is a lot of accusatory type behavior in our country in particular these days, where people really want to just tear people down. They find a flaw or a fault, and they don't have the necessary compassion for the fact that, we all have those faults. And we want to be holding up our brothers and sisters, not tearing them down. And when people have a fall or when people are struggling, we don't want to rip them down further. We want to help to lift them up. One of the things that I was taught from the very beginning in my out-of-body experiences was that, first of all, creation continues to create, and that we have to give back to creation what creation gives to us. And much of what I do in the out-of-body state has to do with entering into other realms, not just doing the alterations that we talked about earlier, but going into other realms, whether they're purgatorial realms or lower realms, and offering energetic assistance and alteration to souls who are struggling in those realms. Why do we do this? Because I have spiritual guardians from higher realms than this who are helping me, and that's how we give back to creation what creation gives to us. That we have to become compassionate towards our brothers and sisters who are struggling in these mortal realms, and with the concepts of good and evil and the things that are holding them down in the negativity that is making it impossible for them to have a forward thrust. So what we do individually, if we see that in ourselves, we start making individual decisions. Don't take on everything all at the same time. You say, I'm going to do this one thing to combat this negative thinking that I've got going on, or I hate this, or I hate this person, or I hate this situation, and I'm going to come up with something very positive that I'm going to do instead. Even if it's not something profoundly amazing, it's just I've decided that I'm going to love that person, despite the fact that I know this. I'm going to change my attitude about this situation. I am going to love this situation, even though it is painful and filled with all kinds of emotional conflict, because I'm going to offer compassion to my own life, or to the life of another. So even if there's nothing you can do, like okay, I can't go out and completely resolve this situation, just like I can't go out and clean the oceans all by myself. But we have people make a decision where they're going to do one thing. And then it starts multiplying. We have to start allowing ourselves to allow compassion to arise within our souls towards ourselves And also then it makes it much easier